Billy Liucci from TexAgs.com was the one who broke the story yesterday about Manziel being suspended, as I'd like to say, for 30 minutes, the first half of the Rice game, and Billy joins us now. Billy, what did you expect, and what was your reaction when you were first told what the suspension would be?
Dan, if you'd have asked me that question on prior to Sunday, I would have expected either nothing, not guilty, couldn't prove anything, no games, or I would have expected him to get hammered by the NCAA because, if they would have proven that he had taken money for those signatures, I think they would have really set an example on him. A lot of people thought, well, no, they'll let him off easy because of who he is. I didn't feel that way at all. After that meeting on Sunday, though, I started to hear you're looking at maybe a game. That's what I kept hearing, maybe a game 2 at most. So that took me into that mindset of a smaller suspension. I was a little surprised that they gave the half game, the rarely seen 1/2 game suspension by the NCAA, but that surprised me a little bit. But prior to Sunday, I thought it was going to be an all-or-nothing deal. So you knew immediately that it was the 12.5.22 that none of us knew about before yesterday, and now everyone's talking about.
What about teammates' reaction and coaches' reactions if you got on the record or off the record about Manziel?
The coaches were just thrilled to know what their situation was going to be at quarterback, and I think A&M really pushed to get that decision yesterday as opposed to Thursday, with Tuesday and Wednesday being the biggest practice days. They know they can just throw Johnny out there. He can roll out of bed and play football. He's one of those guys. But if it's Kenny Hill, the true freshman, that has to start on Saturday, which is what all signs point to right now, they needed Wednesday work. Kenny needed to get some first-team reps. And the coaches, that was probably just a sigh of relief. From the player standpoint, those guys love their quarterback.
But is there anybody who feels like he's selfish, jeopardizing the season out for himself and better than everybody else?
No, I think that's a fair question, and it's just a unique thing seeing this team dynamic because Johnny is traveling all over. He is the one getting all the attention on a team that has quite a few future NFL draft picks on it. It's just the only way I can describe it, Dan, is you heard all those stories of Michael Jordan over the years with the Chicago Bulls, and those guys just, when you saw them playing games, they looked like they absolutely loved playing with him. And I can imagine how they would flock to Michael Jordan in much the same way that the A&M guys are with Johnny. It's hard to imagine him being just one of the guys, but when he's out there with that football team, that is how they treat him. And I've seen it with my 2 eyes where the guys just gravitate to him. He's one of those personalities, one of those rare – I think people around the country get a glimpse of it in between negative stories, but he's one of those rare types. It just, for whatever reason, his team just, they gravitate to him and they look up to him, but at the same time, he's one of them. And it's pretty remarkable to watch.
Good to visit with you, Billy, having some phone issues, but thanks for joining us, and great work yesterday.
All right, Dan, thanks a lot.
That's Billy Liucci, TexasAgs.com. He broke the story yesterday on Johnny Manziel. Yeah, I thought at some point, since Manziel was doing this as a redshirt freshman, that you might get upperclassmen who have a problem with this. But look, the guy's going to help you win, gives you notoriety at a school that hasn't had much notoriety on the national level. And remember when A&M was going into the SEC, I think everybody thought, well, they're going to get carved up. You can't win in the Big 12, and now you're going to go to the SEC. There's a lot of talent. A&M had a lot of talent last year. And it wasn't just Johnny Manziel. I mean, you had Jokel and Swope. And they got a couple of guys that are going to play in the NFL on this year's team as well. But you're suspended for 30 minutes. I don't know. Sometimes you think that the punishment makes it even worse. We're waiting for disciplinary action through all of this and the big bad NCAA. And we want you to say you're sorry. You're going to get a timeout for 30 minutes. I hope you've learned a lesson. The lesson Johnny Manziel learned? That's it. He's probably laughing. I'm not going to say all the way to the bank because that money ain't in the bank.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.